Very good. All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's call the May 4th, 2026 LAFCO meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Becker,
Present.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Commissioner Aguirre,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Browning,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Whitburn is absent, Commissioner White,
Present.
alternate Commissioner McCann is absent, alternate Commissioner Drake,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Montgomery Stepp is absent, alternate Commissioner Delaney,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert, and Commissioner Whitburn just walked in. Okay, thank you. So there is a quorum with 8 voting members present, and the meeting was called to order at 8:15 a.m.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance. Do we have any commissioners participating remotely? Commissioner McCann? No. All right, very good. Let's begin today with a review of the agenda. Mr. Simons, is there anything you want to touch on?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioner. So no changes to the agenda. Everything that staff posted early last week has held. So that means you will have a couple of public hearing items, 2 of which involve your budget and work plan. And then, of course, perhaps the main item we are bringing forward for discussion and perhaps some direction, a draft municipal service review covering the San Diego County Water Authority. And then last but not least, Michaela will be presenting on an outside service request from Buena Sanitation District. We did have a couple of items of supplemental correspondence that we sent out to the commission on Friday, and I believe you have copies on the dais. Both of those involve 6A, and staff will address those as we proceed. So we are good to go.
Very good. All right, let's take non-agenda public comment. This provides an opportunity for anyone who would like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda, but is within the purview of LAFCO. Do we have any public comment?
We do have one online, Teddy Jackson.
Good morning, commissioners, and Commissioner Becker, congratulations on. Can you hear me? Hello?
Give me a second.
Testing.
Yes.
Okay, I thought I heard your IT person say, wait a minute. Well, good morning and congratulations to Commissioner Becker for your new role. And good morning to all of the commissioners, but especially to Commissioner and Supervisor Anderson and Aguirre and to Mayor White. I haven't been able to see you for a while, but I think you've been really busy on some MSRs. So that gave me time to do some more research on what's happening in our Southeast Escondido community. And one of the things that's really, really kind of upsetting is that with the redistricting that happened, we've become the lost stepchild. We had been working with Supervisor Desmond's office for several months on the Aldea Escondido project. And then with the twist of turns, now we're fortunately with Supervisor Anderson, and to have an opportunity to talk to you briefly a little over a month ago. But the situation is that it's just really difficult. Like, we feel like we're not getting any attention at all. I've reached out online, on social media, on LinkedIn, through an email, and no communication from the county at all. So I'm asking today from the county representatives that we set something up and we invite you out to our neighborhood, because not only do we have Aldea Escondido, I personally and our whole neighborhood was just notified for the first time about a CEQA loophole checklist project called Pascual Heights that's at the base of Park Hill. And this project was never notified. Nobody was notified before. We now have 30 days to read 500 pages. Our comments are due on the 18th. When I asked the county representative, who's a good person, okay, good person in the planning department, probably just hands are tied, who was noticed the first time around, still have no answer. But I'm pretty sure it was probably 500 feet. So in a rural community, that's like a couple people. So completely fails. This time around, I'm 3,000 feet away from the project. I got a letter this time. Maybe that was because there were some complaints that came in. So in talking to and delivering instructions and door hangers this weekend to all of Park Hill, because nobody knows about this project other than the letter that was just received. There's never been a community meeting. And it's really just really disheartening that the public's voice is being pushed away, being closed out in our community. So I don't know, I have been asked already from the county staff if there's any concept plans of what this housing development will look like other than the engineering plans. That's also no answer back on that. There was a picture that was behind the white sign that the county posts that was underneath of it. It had been so old that it had fallen apart and there was some picture underneath of it. I don't know if that picture was it, but if that is it, that's really disturbing because that was a picture of some condo looking projects that you would see in Mira Mesa next to the freeway. And if that's what's being planned for rural Escondido, then it's really going to be problematic because this is just clearly no sense of anyone wanting to do anything for your neighborhoods that have been around for a century.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. All right, let's turn to the consent items, which are 5A through 5G. Do we have any public comment on those items?
Not for consent.
Very good, thank you. Do we have anybody that would like to pull any of the consent items? Very good. All right. We have a motion to move forward the rest of the consent items?
Motion.
Get that?
Joe,
No.
I thought it was me.
It was, yeah.
Bridget, and Dane.
Yeah.
Thank
was
you.
Get the right motion here. I was just forming the words. They said it.
People often confuse us, Barry.
It's our glasses.
Very good, we're ready for the vote.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn, Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Browning,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
All right.
Commissioner Geary.
Yes.
So there are 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our public hearing, our headliner, as you like to say.
Indeed.
We have 6A, it's the draft municipal service review on the wholesale water service providers, Part 1, San Diego County Water.
We're going to take that up at the end if that's okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. Okay, so let's first start with ex parte communications. Does anyone, yes, Mr. Whitburn?
Thank you, Chair. I serve on 3 of the bodies that are mentioned in the report, on the board of the San Diego County Water Authority, on the San Diego City Council, and on the City 10. And I have had conversations about this with people associated with all 3 of those bodies.
Very good. I would also like to share that I was introduced to Dan Denham at a coffee about a month ago. Yes.
I met with Dan Denham and God.
It's memorable.
I met with the water agent.
Very good. All right. Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
I met with Frank Hilliker. Frank's a longtime friend. I've never met with him. that he didn't bring up water. So this was yet another time, a usual meeting.
Sound like exciting times.
Yes.
Okay, so now we will, we are going to go to our presentation by staff.
Thank you. Just to offer up a little context, so Priscilla and team have been working on this document for a while. So Priscilla's going to start a presentation off, and I'll let her do some introductions. But just for the benefit of the ultimate ask, this item, as Priscilla will detail, is a check-in to see if we're on the right path or if we need to do some more work. But nevertheless, keep that in mind as you hear a rather detailed presentation starting with Priscilla.
Thank you, Keen. Good morning, Chair Becker and Commissioners. Priscilla Mumpower, Assistant Executive Officer and Project Manager on this municipal service review. And before I keep going, I'm going to ask for that clicker due.
Oh,
Thank you. I'm also joined today by two members of our consultant team. Dr. Michael Hanneman, who joins us from Arizona State University, flew in last night from Phoenix. Thank you, Dr. Hanneman, for being here. And also our government relations consultant, Patrick Buteller, but more on them in just a moment. So today, this item presents a first draft of the municipal service review covering one of the two wholesale water agencies serving San Diego County and that are subject to LAFCO's oversight. Given the scale and complexity of this review, we have structured it into two parts. So the first part is going to be heard today, and that is of the San Diego County Water Authority. And then the second will be presented separately and under a separately noticed hearing and focused on Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. And for the purpose of today's hearing, it is rather straightforward. We're looking to walk you through the draft report, the key assumptions and conclusions that shaped it, and ask the Commission whether we've met the mark in terms of the substance, the scope, the tone, and relative to the goal of providing a fair, balanced, and independent assessment. And if you believe that we did, in fact, hit the mark, then we would request that you authorize us to initiate a formal 45-day public review and comment period, then of which we would return to you with a final version of the report as early as August of 2026. So before diving into the substance of the report, I want to take a moment to just frame what an MSR is and why it matters for those of you who are listening to an MSR presentation for the first time. So an MSR is one of LAFCO's core planning tools under state law, and at its most basic level is an independent, comprehensive evaluation of how an agency is performing. So how are they, how are their municipal services being provided to the community, and are they meeting community needs now and into the future? And this matters because it directly informs sphere of influence updates, which sphere of influence, for those who are not familiar, is sort of like a growth boundary. So do we anticipate the agency is going to continue to grow? Do we anticipate it will reduce in size? Or do we anticipate that it will actually dissolve and perhaps be taken over by another agency? It also informs future boundary changes. So as applications come forward, the Commission takes into consideration past MSRs, and that informs your decision-making. And then also significantly, it can inform organizational or governance changes, some of which could be initiated by this Commission and some of which we will also touch on today. So as mentioned, this study represents part one of a broader regional municipal service review covering one of the two wholesale agencies. So the question might be, why this MSR and why now? So this is the first standalone municipal service review of wholesale water agencies in San Diego LAFCO's history. The origins of the work trace back to the two proposals that came forward just a few years back, covering Fallbrook Public Utility District and Rainbow Municipal Water District's requests to fully detach from the County Water Authority and seeking wholesale water service from Eastern Municipal Water District, and noting that some of the concerns were with respect to rate pressures. So of course, that had a lot of questions, that process that the Commission had on cost allocation, long-term affordability, governance, and institutional alignment, that the Commission decided merited a dedicated review by staff. And so much so that the priority was as its #1 priority on the LAFCO work plan. So this report represents staff stepping back from a case-specific context and providing the commission a broader independent assessment of how the County Water Authority is performing, again, in relative to them being positioned to meeting needs now, but then also into the future. The assessment applies statutory MSR factors as well as local policy consideration. And to this point, I want to just briefly, again, for benefit of context, briefly note that policy L107 or 106, excuse me, really shaped the staff's approach in this draft. So under policy L106, the commission delegates the scope and scale of MSRs to its executive officer. It also directs that we hold a voluntary public hearing notice, which we've done here, and we've also noticed it. It also asks that we engage in community engagement. So we've done that. And if you were on social media perusing this weekend, you might have seen Aiden did a great job of promoting the MSR for that was happening this morning on Instagram and LinkedIn to really try to promote that you all would be hearing this today and that the public was welcome and invited to do so as well. And importantly, at least for the subject agency and certainly for us as well, because I think it's been a great part of the process, the policy directs us to do a 60-day administrative review period where the agency can take a look at staff's first draft before we make it public and give us comments and red line track changes and et cetera. And so the administrative review period did conclude on March 23rd. And County Water Authority's comments are included in the packet that you have before you, as well as staff responses. All of those comments were considered, some of which we ended up incorporating into the report. But again, that's all within your packet towards the back end. And so I now want to just briefly highlight some of the key assumptions that framed and shaped the report. So first, this is intended to be a foundational document. And MSR is designed to function as a long-term reference document. So this is something that LAFCO can build upon over time rather than just providing a one-time snapshot. The scope was intentionally focused by your executive officer to really focus on the primary municipal service function, which in this case is wholesale water service. So the report does not evaluate hydroelectric power generation and that function. The reporting window is intentionally longer than usual. Usually we do a 5-year look back, but in this case, we're using a 15-year look back and specifically spanning fiscal years 2009 to 2023. And in particular, this choice was made because the questions that we're seeking to answer aren't like short-term operational questions, but rather long-term structural questions involving long-term contracts, rate trajectory, liquidity, governance, and more, which are all really hard to assess under a shorter window. Fourth, the analysis is system-wide and trend-based. So we're not hinging the report on any single year result, but rather, again, looking at a trajectory. And lastly, I want to just say that the MSR is really just meant to inform your judgment and not predeterminate. So staff's intent is to present you with a first draft of a framework that we've put together to inform your discussion and ultimately your direction. So with all of that foundation in place, I'd like to, and before I pass it off to our consultants, I want to briefly orient the commission to the subject agency itself. So the San Diego County Water Authority is an independent special district created under special legislation and approved by the San Diego County voters in 1944. The district was originally formed to support a booming and growing population, as well as military installations and all of the demand that comes with that, by securing and delivering imported water supplies. And the expectation early on was that the Water Authority might construct and operate its own infrastructure through the Colorado River, but the agency instead, in 1946, and approved also by the voters, joined Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. So today, County Water Authority serves 22 member agencies spanning more than 1,300 square miles and more than 3.1 million residents, and making up 80% of the supply that the member agencies attain, with the remaining making up local supplies. So with all of that context and foundation in place, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Hanneman, or actually just in just a moment. We do have a strong lineup. So Dr. Michael Hanneman joins us, who supported us in the finance and supply analysis. He is a highly regarded water and environmental economist. He's a professor at Arizona State University and has various degrees from Harvard, Oxford, and London School of Economics. We will also hear from our government relations consultant, Patrick Buteller, who brings more than 20 years of experience in government affairs and public policy. Once you hear from our two consultants, they're going to kick it right back over to me, and I'll synthesize all of that analysis into our key takeaways and then the recommendations of the report. And then at the very end, we'll just be available for any questions you might have. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Chair Becker and commissioners, it's an honor to be here to be able to address you today. And I want to emphasize the tremendous support and assistance and kindness I've received from the staff, Priscilla, Keene, and others, and also from the County Water Authority. I've worked especially with Tish throughout this with the Fallbrook and Rainbow and now, and they've been tremendously helpful and thoughtful. And so I was a professor at Berkeley for 35 years. I still have a home in Berkeley, so I consume Northern California water and Colorado River water in Phoenix. I have, through this experience going back to Fallbrook and Rainbow, I've learned so much. And there are so many things which in hindsight look obvious, but I didn't appreciate their significance. And I have to say most economists working on water don't appreciate the issues. This really is at the forefront of a set of problems facing the water industry throughout America. So here the story goes back, as Priscilla said, to 1944, and the authority was founded, and it decided in 46, it arranged to receive water from Met, from the Colorado River. And for the next 45 years, roughly, it was a distributor of Met water. And it built up member agencies. And things changed with the drought. So the drought started next. Yeah, the drought started in 87, but it really peaked in 90 and 91. And in the early spring of 91, it became severe. And for the first time in its history, Met cut back deliveries to its members. And it it announced what was going to be an overall cutback of 31%. But within a few weeks, it said it might have to double the cutback. And in the end, it started raining within another 2 or 3 weeks, but the cutback of 31%, a bigger cutback for agricultural, but the County Water Authority had a lot of agricultural customers in those days. The county was the most highly reliant on Met of all Met's member agencies. It was 95% reliant. Other agencies, of course, LA had water from Mono Lake, etc. Met might have adopted a differentiated policy and treated members less highly reliant, differently than the ones more highly reliant. It didn't. It treated all member agencies uniformly, and therefore the County Water Authority got hit hardest. The county, and I think this was not just the County Water Authority, but the county leadership, city leadership, felt it was necessary to do something to become less reliant on Met. And the strategy was, first of all, to purchase water from the Colorado River, from an Imperial Irrigation District, with which Met had reached a deal in 1985, and with which Met had created, for 100,000 acre feet, But Met had arranged to talk about another 200,000 acre feet in the future. And what happened with that is when Met in the mid-90s went back to IID, IID asked for a price which Met considered too high, and the county stepped in and accepted that price, which perhaps caused a certain amount of chagrin to Met. And the second was going ahead with the desalination plan. So the company called Poseidon had proposed a plan for two desal plants, one at Huntington Beach and the other at Carlsbad in '98. The county started negotiations I'll go to the next slide, 2002. So the IID deal was then sealed as part of what was called the QSA, the Quantification Settlement Agreement, which limited California definitively to how much water it could take from the Colorado River. And then the Carlsbad plant came online in 2015. The agreements to take water from IID, to buy water, there was a supplementary agreement to line the two canals, the All-American Canal and which gave another 80,000 acre feet. These were all take-or-pay contracts, which last, I think, to about 2045, with the possibility of extension beyond that. So the Water Authority has to pay for the water each year, and the schedule ramped up. It has to pay for the water whether it can use the water or not. And the rates adjust each year. There was a base rate, and then they adjust for water, the IID water and the All-American Canal lining. It adjusts based on some inflation index. For Carlsbad, there's a contract to pay for the capital costs and so on. But to pay for the operating costs, the price increase each year is linked to the price of energy. And so, for example, in 2023, the price of energy locally jumped that year, and that led to a bigger increase. So the county is committed to paying for large quantities of water, basically 322,000 acre feet, at a price that is increasing. And the Carlsbad is vulnerable to the cost of energy because energy is a major cost of removing the salt. So the result was that the authority went from not having a large fixed cost component of its annual cost to having a very large one. It went for having less than 40% of its operating costs each year fixed. What I mean by fixed is if the county delivered an extra acre foot, the cost went up. And if the county delivered an acre foot less, the costs went down because they varied with the amount of water. The fixed costs are costs that you pay, it's like a mortgage, regardless of how much or how little water you do. So the county wound up with over 80% of its costs, I think about 85%, that are fixed costs. Now, what it actually costs, it gets water from these three sources, from the QSA arrangement, and that water is there's a payment to Imperial, there's a payment for the canal lining done by the Bureau of Reclamation, but the water is conveyed by Metropolitan along its Colorado River aqueduct. So that's one set of water. Metropolitan sells water to the Water Authority as a member agency. And so the authority pays the member agency fee, $942 an acre foot, for the water it purchases as a member agency, and it pays $1,050 for the water it purchases from Imperial, and it pays Metropolitan to move. And the water that Metropolitan moves, the QSA water, is about 11% more expensive than Metropolitan's own water. And that is not a coincidence. And that was the basis of litigation between the authority and Metropolitan. Was the authority basically claimed that Metropolitan was charging an exaggerated fee to convey the water. But anyhow, that litigation was settled definitively in June a year ago. The Carlsbad water, and these figures are for calendar, for fiscal 2024. Carlsbad water, I had a higher figure. The authority says the figure is 3,100. Anyhow, the point is it's significantly more expensive than river water, either from Metropolitan or from IID. And so that would have worked if nothing else had changed, if demand had stayed the same. Water became more expensive. IID water became more expensive. As I say, there was a cost inflation. Metropolitan's rates to its member agencies went up. They both went up by about 130%. In other words, if the authority was paying for QSA water or Metropolitan $1 in 2008, it would have been paying $2.30. But that's inflation in the cost of running water supply, chemicals, labor, etc. Carlsbad went up more. So the overall price increase, if the authority had been buying the same amount of water, the 3/4 of the price increase was the higher cost of water supply for Metropolitan. 1/4 was bringing on Carlsbad. But Carlsbad is a form of insurance because drought in the Sacramento River, where Met gets some of its water, drought in the Colorado River, that doesn't affect the desal. And so getting ocean desalination is a form of getting a reliable supply. It's more expensive, but in my view, it's not unreasonable. The amount of water and the cost. At the time, desal was the only other effective source, and it cost what it cost. What made the situation impossible is the collapse in demand, the collapse in the amount of water the authority delivered to its member agencies. It's delivering in 2024 45% fewer gallons than in 2009, and that's an amazing reduction. So the reduction, the main factor is the GPCD column. That stands for gallons per person per capita per day, gallons per capita per day. And that's all the water used in the water authority's service area, supplied by the authority or supplied by member agencies from local sources, divided by the population. That fell in 5 years by 17%. So what kicked it off, 2008, you have the housing crisis, the recession, unsold housing. That caused water use throughout the country to decline. That's led to a nationwide reduction in water use. And it's conservation, it's empty houses not being occupied, it's the whole suite of things. It's the recession, it's factories laying off workers, and so on. Nationally, I think the reduction in water use following the recession was something on the order of 8 or 10%. It was 17% in the county. Population grew over the overall period, but a bit, 7%. So the main thing is the amount of water being used in this county fell greatly, much more than the growth in population. Then the other thing is member agencies of the Water Authority were developing recycling, were often developing recycling, treated wastewater for outdoor uses, not for consumption. So the county dropped from supplying 88%, that's the next slide, to 74%. So the county, the key thing is it's delivering 45, you put these numbers together, the population growth leads to an increase, but the other two multiply together, give you a decrease. It delivers 45% less water. And with a fixed cost, if I deliver 10,000 acre-foot less, my costs scarcely go down because they're 85% fixed costs. My revenues are heavily dependent, and the revenue goes down, and that's the fiscal issue. Now, at this point, I have to say, in 1986 to 90, I served as the economic staff for the State Water Resources Control Board. After the first year I was working pro bono, I was a professor at Berkeley. I was fired in 1990 by the board because I submitted a report predicting Southern California could reduce its per capita water use by 17% within 25 years. And some of the board members, not all, took offense at that thought. Well, I predicted what happened, but of course, this is my house in Berkeley is right by the Haywood Falls. And someday there's going to be an earthquake. You don't know when, and you don't know how severe. Will it be a 6, God forbid, a 7? I see what happened here, and it's throughout Met Service area, this dramatic drop in per capita water use, starting in 2008, triggered by the recession and also the drought as like an earthquake. We knew it was going to happen. From 1985, we said that. But no one knew beforehand that it would happen. And no one knew how severe it would be, how steep. I live in Phoenix. Phoenix has done a lot of conservation, the city in particular, but it hasn't had the reduction in per capita water use on the scale of 37% in 15 years. So, yes, there was conservation. We couldn't have known when water use per capita would drop. We couldn't have known how severely, how strongly it would drop. And we now have potable water use, which the city is doing, and pure water, and which. But that really, and that was discussed. I came to Berkeley in '76. There was a professor at Davis recommending that. It took really till about 2015, 2016 for California to authorize the use of highly treated wastewater for drinking purposes, either potable reuse, either indirect, where you blend it, or direct, where you actually just put it into the water distribution system. So now, with hindsight, potable water reuse is cheaper, and it also has a revenue stream because it's dealing with wastewater. But that really wasn't possible in the time frame. That's become possible now. So the problem is this imbalance. The revenues dominated by variable charges. You sell an extra acre foot, you get $1 more revenue. You sell an acre foot less, you get less revenue. But there's a mismatch of this heavy reliance with fixed costs, but much lower fixed revenues. And so I estimate roughly for every 1,000 acre feet, under the existing rates, for every 1,000 acre feet, the authority sells less, it makes a net loss of $1 million, almost $1 million. And the context is the development in the immediate future of pure water in San Diego, which has the plan to remove 100,000 acre feet. And so that's a big loss. So I want to emphasize potable reuse is a wonderful thing. It's an economically terrific idea. I'm sure it's beneficial. It was motivated to solve a wastewater treatment problem because San Diego's wastewater system was outdated and overloaded. And that's the justification. It's not motivated as a source of water supply in the sense that it's expensive, not as expensive as desal, but still expensive. But the water supply is a co-benefit. And as I say, the potable water reuse wasn't an option until roughly 10 years ago. So I want to just emphasize, these problems are not limited then to the authority. The authority is not unusual in any way. Many wholesale agencies in the rest of the country have this problem, and in California, especially metropolitan. It's not unusual to have a fiscal imbalance with a heavy reliance on fixed costs, but mainly getting variable revenues. It's not unusual to have reduction in demand throughout. We've had a bigger reduction as a state than Arizona. And as I'll say in the next slide, it's not unusual for the authorities to have a governance structure and a voting structure like the authority, which is the last thing I'll comment on. And in fact, Met has the same governance structure. And my colleague will address that more. But to me, there's a litmus test. Can the agency perform going forward? And for it to perform, its board needs to be able to make hard decisions. And as I see it, there are two related hard decisions. One is roll-on. If a member agency needs less water from pure water or anything else, how are the finances to be adjusted? And there needs to be a policy in place there needs to be an outline for dealing with this. So if the issue arises, it's not, an emergency that then has to be figured out at short notice. And I think a basis is looking at how much water the agency took in the past that it's now walking away from, and what are the purchase obligations that the roll-off is taking place, and similarly with the detachment. And the authority has about $20 billion of purchase obligations. And then detachment, which you dealt with Fallbrook and Rainbow. And you set, I think, an important nationwide precedent of an exit fee. It's an issue that arose in Australia 20 years ago, and Australia developed that policy. And I think that needs to be a water agency with this structure needs to have a policy to deal with that. So the question is the board capable of developing policies for this? And what makes it difficult is the voting structure of the board. And briefly, it's backward looking. The votes are based on how much water or how many dollars you've paid since the foundation, since 1944. But as the agency makes new investment decisions, the issue is, will the members buying water in the future have the ability and the willingness to pay for that water? And so you need a forward-looking voting structure to handle decisions on KIP. And so I see those challenges. And to repeat, Met has the same problems, and I think many other wholesale water agencies. It has a voting structure which worked. The system worked. It's that the water supply economics are changing so drastically that you need a management structure and a voting structure that will work for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanneman.
Good morning, Chair Becker and Commissioners. Patrick Buteller, consultant on this project. A core tenet of municipal service review is found in Code Section 56430, number 6, accountability for service needs, including government structure and operational efficiencies. With that in mind, we will walk through the voting structure of the County Water Authority. As noted earlier, the Water Authority has 22 member agencies. Each has at least one director, and votes are weighted based on each agency's cumulative financial contribution to the Water Authority. Each year, this number is calculated, and the weighted percentage of each district for next year is approved by a resolution of the board. The most recent CWA board resolution from December of 2025 approved a weighted vote entitlement of 42.14% for the city of San Diego, where the city is represented by 10 appointees. The next largest is 6.9 for Helix Water District, 6.7 for the Otay Water District, 5.6 for Oceanside, 5 for Valley Center, and so forth. Each of these percentages did change marginally with the separation of Fallbrook and Rainbow. Directors are appointed by the CEOs and legislative bodies for which they represent. And of the 34 County Water Authority directors, 23 of the 34 are directly involved in the governing or management of the individual water district for which they serve, as either a board member or general manager of the water district, and providing strong alignment between most water districts and their water authority delegates. Historically, roughly 9 of the 11 who are not directly involved as either a board member or a general manager of the individual water district for which they serve come from the city of San Diego's 10 delegates. This weighted formula is not completely unique, as the city has a similar percentage of the trigger vote at the San Diego Association of Governments, in that case based on population. However, what is very unique is that this large weighted vote can be moved by a mere majority of the city of 10 delegates. So if 6 of the city 10 delegates vote to support an item, and 4 of the city 10 vote to oppose an item, 100% of the city 10 vote, which is 42% of the weighted vote, is calculated as support for the item for purposes of passage. The city's 42% is not broken up evenly between each city 10 member. Sounds complicated, but again, therefore 6 city 10 delegates can effectively represent 42% of the water authority's weighted vote, which means delegates representing 25% of the weighted vote are really controlling the 42%. This can and has caused circumstances to arise where over 20 directors vote no on an item, including 4 of the city 10 delegates, and yet the motion still passes. Roll briefly through a few examples. In 2020, a multi-million-dollar Colorado River pipeline study was approved by the County Water Authority, despite 20 of the 34 board members voting no. 4 of the city 10 members were among the 20 that voted no. However, spending on the project moved forward because the final weighted vote was tabulated as 56%, 1% over the necessary 55% threshold. Had the 4 city 10 no votes been allowed to count, the motion would have fell well below the 40% of the weighted vote. And among the no votes were the city council member and city's assistant chief operating officer, responding to a letter from the city of San Diego impressing on board members that this pipeline would not be necessary. A similar example of misalignment happened in 2019 when the Metropolitan Water District publicly suggested a settlement with the Water Authority. With hundreds of millions of dollars in local planning at stake for Pure Water, the city of San Diego mayor attended the meeting and urged the Water Authority to accept. The settlement did not happen, and attorney fees alone on this issue have consistently been reported in the tens of millions of dollars. However, a settlement not terribly different than this one was recently approved by the new Water Authority leadership and board last year. And a more recent example of the incongruent nature of the City 10 relationship is the most recent rate hike vote, in which the City Council voted to allow a 2-year rate approval, but supported the concept of a future cap on ratepayer dollars for the County Water Authority if rate hikes from the Water Authority continued at the current trajectory. For these reasons and others outlined in the report, and in order to provide a more direct alignment of decision-making on water issues from ratepayers through City Council and the County Water Authority, this MSR recommends that the Water Authority and City of San Diego review its block voting policy practice and explore opportunities to better align its governing body and its city delegates to the Water Authority Board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pat. And thank you, Dr. Hanneman. I just want to emphasize that reaching the conclusion of this first draft report would not have been possible without the tremendous support from Dr. Hanneman and certainly from Pat. So just a thank you and an acknowledgement of their efforts throughout this process. But I want to now just bring everything together for you into some key takeaways and then the recommendations. I'll try my best not to repeat too much from what was already said, but you might hear a couple of things re-emphasized just for the purpose of bringing it together. So the report itself identifies a number of conclusions, 9 to be specific, but I'm going to distill that into 5 central takeaways. And then the report has 7 recommendations that I'll go over at the end, 4 directed at the County Water Authority, 1 directed at their member agency, City of San Diego, and then 2 directed for action for the commission to consider. So again, 5 overarching takeaways, and the first and most foundational takeaway is that the County Water Authority's strategic shift in the 90s from this regional conveyance and storage agency into a more independent wholesale supply agency did produce real benefits. You heard from Dr. Hanneman, it helped diversify the supply portfolio. It helped reduce dependence on the single source, which at the time was met. But the shift did also create a long-term structural trade-off where you have greater supply diversity and reliability being attained, but at a growing cost to affordability. And so again, that's the central lens of the report where we're going from scarcity concerns to affordability concerns. The second takeaway is that the consequence of this business model shift is now presenting as a structural financial strain. And I want to be precise in that we're not concluding that they're financially unstable, but rather that they're structurally strained. And the distinction is important. So over the 15-year period, County Water Authority's cost structure, as you heard, has become increasingly fixed, while its revenues remain heavily dependent on variable water sales. And that is the core mismatch. And it matters because when water sales decline, the fixed obligations do not decline proportionately. And as detailed in the report, you have the County Water Authority's fixed expenses having increased 30% over the reporting period, untreated wholesale water rates having increased 164%. Their liquidity has weakened with a substantial decline in days cash on hand, going from 19 months to 5 months at its close. Debt service has also remained significant with a relatively limited amount going towards principal with only 30%. And then the report also notes County Water Authority's own projection that deliveries may fall below that 322,000 acre-foot take-or-pay threshold as early as 2027, which is just around the corner. And that means that the agency may begin paying for water it cannot sell absent successful remarketing, which remains largely fixed. And this brings me to also noting that this same structural pressure not only applies to their finances, but to their governance model. Their weighted voting system was built around this historical logic that voting power, should broadly reflect long-term participation and financial contributions. But that model is best suited when member agencies remain aligned. And that must have been the thought when it was formed, right? That member agencies are all in it together, that we will be aligned moving forward. And there would be this willingness to increase their own rates and absorb any cost increases that come along. But so that's the key challenge that staff is identifying that appears to be weakening now, where you have member agencies diversifying their own supply, or in the case of Fallbrook and Rainbow, they seek to fully detach. And the gap can begin to then widen between those who are holding the greatest decision-making influence, for example, City of San Diego holding 42% of the voting power, but then those who then bear the financial consequences of any decision-making moving forward. And the fourth takeaway is that it appears the County Water Authority is approaching a real inflection point. And this is where a lot of the report's key concerns begin to converge. So the business model shift resulting in financial and governance strain, a projected take or pay exposure with the declining sales outlook and the growing divergence between member agencies, which is why in the report you see phrases like pivotal point or tipping point, and that change is needed. And staff believes this conclusion is increasingly supported by the math, and I'm going to use this slide and the next to help illustrate this. So over the 15-year report period, the report found that roughly for every 1% decline in County Water Authority water sales, that corresponded with a 4% increase in untreated rates. So that's that first column that you see there. So that historical sensitivity of a 4-to-1 ratio. So if you apply that same historical sensitivity forward, and using the estimate that the City of San Diego's potable reuse program will result in a decline of at least 111,000 acre feet of water sales, then that would result in the need to raise untreated rates by approximately 133% by 2035 to absorb the loss under that same basic fixed cost dynamic. But of course, there's these early exchange agreements that have occurred with both Western and Eastern, which is resulting in the successful remarketing of surplus supplies. And so this takes me to the next slide. So using that same historical sensitivity, that 4-to-1 ratio, and instead of a projected volume loss of 111,000, those two agreements result in about 20,000 acre feet that they're remarketing. So now instead of 111, you're seeing 91,000 as the demand decline. And then that resulting in 109% rate increase in untreated rates. So going from 133 in the first scenario to 109%. We do believe that these are conservative estimates because they don't account for the likelihood of additional conservation in response to rising rates, which could further reduce sales volume. But at the same time, staff does not believe it would be fair or analytically complete to stop the story there. So this brings me to our fifth takeaway, that staff believes change is needed, but perhaps let's take a measured pause. There are several material and positive developments that have occurred post the 2023 report period, which is 3 years at this point. And there have been really constructive leadership changes, a settlement with Met, early exchange agreements that test the viability of remarketing supplies. There is even an exploration of out-of-region exchange opportunities with Arizona and Nevada. And the County Water Authority has launched in February a business model review process with its member agencies to address some of the concerns. But of course, those developments don't erase the issues that we've talked about today. So those remain, of course, significant, but it is important to acknowledge that the agency isn't static and that they are very much in this transition period. And so staff isn't just ending with there's a problem. We're saying there's a problem, the problem's significant, but there's these credible signs of positive movement going forward, which is why we're recommending the commission take a measured pause and return to this in 24 months. And so what would that allow? It would allow us to elevate the key governance and financial reforms identified in the report, which I'll touch on in just a second in terms of the recommendations. It allows current leadership and reform efforts to mature under a defined period. And then we can return to a focused addendum to assess whether formal restructuring analysis is warranted. And a brief note on just the 24-month period and sort of the logic behind that. This also aligns with the City of San Diego's recent 2-year rate posture, which gives the region a practical near-term period in which several of these issues could become clearer. So the commission may raise the natural question of, well, what would the addendum actually include or involve? And so staff envisions that this would be a targeted formal check-in, not a full-scale MSR that would be required in 5 years' time. And we would just focus in on updating 3 core indicators. And that would be first, water sales trends, so assessing whether demands are stabilizing or continuing to decline, evaluating whether debt levels and key ratios are stabilizing or worsening, and their liquidity, so reviewing available reserves and overall financial flexibility in the near term. We believe this addendum would also be consistent with one of the requests in County Water Authority's comment letter that the data be updated. We did end in 2023, and this addendum would allow us to incorporate some of these recent years through updating financial data. And so if the commission does proceed with an addendum in 24 months, at that point, the commission could consider whether or not a full restructuring analysis would be warranted. And they would be evaluated through a consistent framework, including cost, legal feasibility, operational considerations, equity and affordability impacts, and ultimately whether any one approach would improve service and reduce long-term pressures. And so there's 3 restructuring paths that we outline in the report as merited options for the commission to consider, again, in 24 months, if the commission agrees in proceeding forward with an addendum. And the first 2 options on the screen involve dissolving the County Water Authority. And we don't raise these lightly, I'll say. But the first would involve evolving the current model into subregions. So dissolving the water authority and then forming 2 or more sub-regional wholesale agencies with assets and liability distributed proportionately. And in concept, it would help better align water supply portfolios and rate structures with similar communities rather than continuing to blend it across the region. The second, also involving dissolving the water authority and then reconstituting a limited regional conveyance agency with MET then assuming the wholesale water supply role. And in concept, this would return the water authority or this new agency into that traditional structure where regional infrastructure is maintained locally, but then supply decisions are centralized through MET. The third option would actually be to expand the water authority's current operations to also include retail sales and gradually consolidate retail functions under a regional structure. And in concept, this would reduce fragmentation, streamline operations, and then align infrastructure and rate setting across the region. But importantly, staff isn't recommending that you take action on any of these today, only that if conditions warrant, that these represent credible paths forward. So with that, I'm going to just briefly go through each of the report's recommendations. There are 7. 4 are directed to the County Water Authority. 1 is directed to one of their member agencies, the City of San Diego, and then 2 are directed to the LAFCO Commission for action. The first is that staff recommends the County Water Authority explore reforms to better align its weighted voting structure with current financial responsibilities, and particularly, as you heard, member agencies rolling off, but then them continuing to hold the greatest voting power. Second, staff recommends that County Water Authority explore support among its member agencies for a supplemental fixed revenue source, such as a special property tax to help reduce pressures. Third, staff recommend County Water Authority support full implementation of both phases of the Pure Water project. We don't believe that the appropriate response would be for County Water Authority structural challenges to then discourage local supply development. To the contrary, we believe that potable reuse really advances regional resilience and long-term affordability, and the wholesale system should adapt accordingly. Fourth, staff recommends County Water Authority and MET proactively explore partnership opportunities, particularly around potable reuse. Which brings me to our 5th recommendation, which is for the City of San Diego to review its appointment and governance practice for its 10 County Water Authority board representatives to better align their actions with policy direction of the mayor and its city council. And this includes the broader question of whether the city's current block voting structure continues to best serve regional accountability. And then the last 2 are for the LAFCO Commission to consider in direction to themselves, meaning staff recommends that LAFCO prepare an addendum to this MSR in 24 months to assess whether current reforms are producing measurable results. And at that time, evaluate whether or not to proceed with an analysis on the restructuring options I laid out. And lastly, notwithstanding the other issues of the report, staff recommends LAFCO proceed with affirming the County Water Authority's existing sphere designation, which is coterminous with its member agencies. So that wraps up all of the analysis. And so the question before you today is, did we meet the mark on everything that you heard today? And is the draft ready to move forward for us to then initiate a 45-day public review and comment period before coming back with a final version as early as August of 26? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keen for any final thoughts before we turn it back over to Chair Becker.
Just thank you, Priscilla, for all your good work, and Michael and Pat. And I want to acknowledge we have Dan Denham in attendance today, the general manager for the Water Authority. And I just want to acknowledge from my perspective. So for those commissioners who were here a few years ago when we were dealing with the Fallbrook and Rainbow dynamic, there was a lot of tension between LAFCO staff and County Water Authority staff. It's been a brand new day with Dan's leadership and his team in terms of just being upfront and cooperative with LAFCO staff. And I do really appreciate, Dan and your team. Thank you so much. We also had a couple of supplemental letters that came in after we had posted the agenda. One was from the Water Authority, as Priscilla mentioned. We'd be happy to address our responses. And then we also had a comment letter that came in right at the end of Friday, and I'm blanking. Oh, Kathy Peroni, perhaps? And I want to say that letter deserves some more attention on our end, which we will certainly do between here and whenever we bring you a final version. So with that, staff is available for questions, and we'll hand it back to the chair.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that thorough presentation. Really, really excellent. I appreciate everybody's input on that. Let's go ahead and go to public comment. We've got Kathy Peroni up first.
You can tell Patrick was here before me. Put the microphone down. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Kathy Peroni. I am a retired 30-year veteran of the water industry. I did submit a letter on Friday. I had to read the entire 180-page report the weekend before, so apologies that came in a little bit late. I detail my concerns with the draft report as it is right now in the letter. And as such, I'm just here today to request that you take a little bit more time to get the report right before going out for public comment. I do think it misses the mark in a couple places. First of all, I think the study period is a little bit too short. I know 15 years is supposed to be a long period of time for review for the LAFCO, but I think in the water industry, it really needs to go back to the 90s at least. It just takes a long time in the water industry to move things around. Second of all, I disagree with two of the recommendations and would suggest that they be revisited. And with that, I'll close and say thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your comment that you sent earlier. All right, we have Lonnie Lutar.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and consultants. My name is Lonnie Lutar. I'm a local government relations consultant with more than 2 decades of water policy experience, including 7 years as a taxpayer watchdog. I was also one of the leading advocates for Pure Water San Diego alongside environmental leaders. While I have several water-related clients, I'm not representing them today. These are my personal views as a San Diego ratepayer who cares about water sustainability and affordability. Let me start by commending LAFCO staff and consultants. This is a strong, thoughtful municipal service review. Evaluating 15 years of fiscal performance is complex work, and you've delivered a report that is both rigorous and practical. I'll also be direct. I have been a serious critic of the San Diego County Water Authority over the years. If this review had been completed a few years ago, I would have been here urging you to seriously consider restructuring as quickly as possible. Because at that time, too much was happening behind closed doors. The City 10 was making decisions that did not reflect the city's stated positions, or most importantly, the interest of its ratepayers. At the same time, major financial risks were building with far too little scrutiny. A small group, primarily environmental advocates, saw those risks coming and consistently pushed for different approaches. Unfortunately, they were largely ignored. Now, to be fair, that trajectory has changed. Recent leadership, General Manager Dan Denham, General Counsel David Edwards, and Board Chair Nick Serrano, and many of the new appointees of the City 10 has moved the agency in a better direction. There is more transparency and there is more willingness to engage. That matters and it deserves to be recognized. I support the draft's recommendations overall, but they need to be implemented with discipline. On the recommendation to explore a supplemental fixed revenue source, that should not move forward without full transparency and real accountability. Ratepayers should not be asked to backstop the system without clear safeguards. On Pure Water, supporting phases 1 and phase 2 makes sense, but phase 2 is still undefined. As those discussions move forward, especially with environmental stakeholders, we need to be clear that the final scope may look different than what was originally assumed. And just for the record, they're currently in negotiations right now. And finally, the 24-month follow-up is essential. This is not the time to take the pressure off this agency. Progress has been made, but it is recent and it is not yet proven. Therefore, continued oversight is critical. The Water Authority has stated that parts of this MSR rely on outdated or disputed assumptions. That alone justifies a rigorous follow-up grounded in updated data and broader stakeholder input. In short, stay the course, keep the pressure on, and require measurable progress. Thank you.
Ilani. Right. Did you have a comment? Or you're just standing up? Okay, very good. All right, is there anyone online?
There is someone online.
Okay, very good.
So Patrick McDonough, you would like to speak?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good morning. My name is Patrick McDonough. I'm an attorney with San Diego Coastkeeper. Thank you so much for this presentation. As a nonprofit that has followed the County Water Authority, Pure Water, desalination, and our rates crisis now for decades, I really can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear an official agency presentation and see this report with a level of candor and without the sort of bias, both positive or negative, and without the I'll call it marketing gloss that seems to be kind of ever present in County Water Authority's own reports and presentations. I guess first off, I would like to echo all of what Lonnie Lutar just said in her comments. I think Coastkeeper is fully supportive of every one of the points that she just made. And I would also commend this report and its findings and digging into the details, because every one of the 7 key recommendations that were just made are points that San Diego Coastkeeper has been discussing and supporting for many, many years. So particularly the first 5 to County Water Authority and to the City of San Diego, all of those are common sense solutions to the situation that we find ourselves in right now. I also fully agree with what Lonnie Lutar just said about the tide turning and County Water Authority making significant progress, both in handling their debt crisis and rates issues, but also in furthering better transparency and public involvement. I do think there's still a ways to go there, but there has been a marked shift in recent months even. So very, very recently and beyond the 2023 period of this report. I do have, well, I guess in recommendations and support for those actions, again, we agree with what Lonnie Lutar just said and adopting those key recommendations. I do have one question, and that would be we're hearing more about County Water Authority sales to third parties, and particularly third parties outside of California that have lower priority rights who might and probably are willing to pay significantly more for those rates? And would that, or how would that change the math on, especially on that 4-to-1 ratio for the decline in sales versus our rates pressures? I think that's a really, really important factor here and worth diving into more deeply. Or if anyone on staff can answer that question today, I think it's worth fleshing out. Thank you so much. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, did we want to take up that issue, anybody? Dr. Hanneman?
An important element is not just the sales to Eastern and Western, but I believe Eastern and Western committed to prepaying for some years of water. I forget the exact number. And so that's a short-term boost to the authority's revenues, not just selling 20,000 acre feet, but getting, I may misremember, but perhaps 5 years revenue for that. So it gives the authority time. It fits in, it seems to me, with the whole thrust of the staff's proposal to spend 24 months to have a pause and give the authority time, but also keep the pressure on the authority.
Thank you for that. All right, let's turn to our commissioner discussion. Yes, Commissioner Whitburn.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Mumpower, Dr. Hanneman, Mr. Buteller, and everybody else involved in drafting this MSR. Thank you to the staff from the Water Authority and others who have engaged in this as well. I have reviewed these materials with interest because I serve on 3 of the bodies that are mentioned in the report. As I mentioned earlier, I serve on the Water Authority Board of Directors, on the City Council for the City of San Diego, as well as on the City 10. What stands out to me is how much has changed in the time period since the time period that this MSR reviews. As was mentioned, this MSR covers a period that ended in 2023. But what has happened at the Water Authority in the 3 years since then has been transformational. There is new leadership at the Water Authority, as was mentioned. That new leadership has settled longstanding litigation with the Metropolitan Water District of Los Angeles. And that settlement has paved the way for the Water Authority to sell its excess water supply. Just in the past couple of months, as was mentioned, the Water Authority has entered into agreements to sell water to agencies outside of San Diego County, and more deals are in the works. Those agreements will generate hundreds of millions of dollars for the Water Authority that will reduce the need for the kind of rate increases that we have seen in the past. Consider that a central theme of this MSR is that the Water Authority's finances are strained because it doesn't sell enough water. That was true, but the Water Authority is solving that problem on its own now. So much so that the Wall Street Journal recently did a story on how Arizona and Nevada now want to buy water from San Diego County. There is no way that LAFCO staff or those of us on this commission could have foreseen all of those recent changes when we began this MSR for the period ending in 2023. It is great that these changes have all happened since 2023, but they have resulted in an MSR that is already outdated. This MSR also contains significant inaccuracies. For example, it says that the San Diego City Council has proposed capping what it will pay the Water Authority for water. And it says that that could have such a big impact on the Water Authority's finances that the Water Authority could be forced to reorganize. In fact, that is part of the reason that the MSR concludes that the Water Authority is financially imperiled. But it is patently inaccurate. The San Diego City Council has not proposed capping what it will pay the Water Authority. I said last year that the City Council could choose to tell the Water Authority that the city would not vote in favor of a rate increase above a certain percentage during the Water Authority's rate setting process, but there was no City Council action even on that, and there was never even a proposal to put a cap on payments to the water authority. I'll offer another example of an inaccuracy. The MSR says the water authority's decision to change its business model is not aging well. And that claim that the business model is not aging well is setting up a recommendation that the water authority restructure. But it is not the change to the new business model that is not aging well. What people have debated are some of the decisions that were made after the new business model was in place. I don't hear people questioning the change to the new business model itself. After the drought in the early 1990s, the water authority recognized that San Diego needed to develop its own water supplies so that it wouldn't be as reliant on the Metropolitan Water District of Los Angeles. So it switched from being just a distributor of water to developing its own supplies. In fact, in the PowerPoint that we just saw, it specifically says the water authority was not wrong to do that, and that, quote, the strategic logic was sound. The change to the new business model itself did not create the water authority's financial challenges. It was the investments in what turned out to be an excessive water supply that created the water authority's financial challenges. The solution to the financial challenges, therefore, is not to change the business model. The business model itself didn't create the problem. The solution to the financial challenge is to sell that excessive water supply and to generate revenue from it. And that is precisely what the water authority is doing right now, and doing so quite successfully. So these claims that the water authority needs to restructure because of the business model it adopted in the 1990s, which is actually generating new water sales and revenue now, or because the city of San Diego is going to cap its payments to the water authority, which is simply inaccurate, these claims don't hold up under scrutiny, and they result in conclusions and recommendations that are simply unfounded. I'll make one final point. The water authority successfully entered into long-term water sales agreements with other agencies just in the past couple of months to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. As mentioned in the Wall Street Journal article, and there have been other articles about this as well, but as mentioned in the Wall Street Journal article, Arizona and Nevada are now interested in buying water from San Diego County as well. Why, at this moment, when two states are ready to buy water from the San Diego County Water Authority to the benefit of local ratepayers, would the 8 of us on this commission issue an MSR that raises the specter of dissolving the San Diego County Water Authority? That would not only be unfounded at this point, that would be counterproductive. If we want to reduce water rate increases in San Diego County, and I assume all 8 of us on this commission do, then we want Arizona and Nevada to buy water from the Water Authority so that the Water Authority gets more revenue from water sales and less from raising rates. What we don't want is Arizona and Nevada wondering if the Water Authority is going to be dissolved. This MSR could actually inhibit the very progress that all of us here want to see. So let me conclude with this. As I have described, we have an MSR that is out of date, it is inaccurate, and it is counterproductive. We cannot advance this in its current form. I could support one of two options. One option would be to recognize that events have overtaken this MSR and simply terminate the MSR and plan to review the Water Authority again in 3 to 5 years. The other option would be to return this draft MSR for revisions. If we do that, I would ask that this MSR not make recommendations at this point, given how much has already changed in the past 3 years. I could see value in the MSR's review and analysis of the events and data through 2023, which is the period that the MSR covers, but making recommendations at this point does not make sense. And we could review things again in 3 to 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitburn. Anybody else have some comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner Drake.
Thank you, Chair Becker. I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Hanneman before the presentation today, and I asked him to locate some wisdom for us and share it, which he did with bells on. So I want to thank you for the effort. One of the issues that Mr. Buteller raised were examples of egregious divergence between the Water Authority and the City of San Diego. But before that time, there were even worse ones. And one person you've never heard of is Joe Parker. Joe Parker was supposed to rotate in as the next chair, but Joe had a fatal flaw. He was an honest man. He was of high integrity, and he would not support an illegal conduct by the part of the City 10. And so they drilled him off of that rotation, causing 19 of us, myself included, to leave the room because of the outrageous Brown Act violation that this was. That wasn't the only one. The Imperial Irrigation District was reviewed by the grand jury in Imperial County. The grand jury gave them a vote of F for their financial performance, but nothing happened to that. But their process was outrageous, and we in San Diego ignored that grand jury presentation. We are at a moment of great opportunity. Our water authority representatives, our board members there, the board members here are all in agreement. We've got to do something. And I'm a little concerned about the sense of urgency. If you look at the city of Corpus Christi, Texas right now, they're about 2 months away from having their reservoirs drain. At that point, they're probably going to have to evacuate parts of the city. City of Johannesburg went through something very similar. Australia and the United Kingdom have gone through similar issues of restructuring because of lack of water. We really need to think more seriously about getting on top of this issue. Dr. Hanneman gave us some very good directions to take, I thought, and we need to consider that more seriously in this MSR. And it's not something that's 5 years out. We may be facing similar issues this year. I just want to let you know, I think we're on the right track. We need to figure this out sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, let me just go to Commissioner Geary and then I'll come to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank Dr. Hanneman for a great presentation and Pat for your work, but most importantly, Priscilla for leading this effort, great effort. I know that this report outlines a troubling trend. Over the study period, wholesale water rates increased by roughly 133%, and that is a serious figure and underscores why affordability must be front and center in this discussion. For working families already dealing with the high housing costs, rising utility bills, transportation expenses, and inflation, increases of this scale matter. In communities that are already facing disproportionate economic pressures, every additional cost hits harder. South Bay families know what it means to stretch every dollar. Seniors on fixed incomes, working parents, lower income households should not bear an outsized burden from regional decisions made without clear accountability. At the same time, if we're going to use this report to guide future action, we need the whole picture. The analysis primarily looks backward through 2023, while some of the most significant developments are happening now, as Commissioner Whitburn mentioned, including recent water sales, new revenue streams, and evolving financial strategies that could materially affect future rate pressures. That matters because we should not make dramatic decisions based on only a partial snapshot. We need to understand whether these recent actions will help stabilize rates, strengthen reserves, and reduce future burdens on customers, which is the most important thing. San Diego has invested heavily in water reliability and resilience, and that work has been incredible. But obviously, because of today's presentation, the challenge continues to be increasing affordability. Reliability must be matched with rates people can actually afford. And that is a catch-22 that we're up for discussion today. But before we consider major structural change, let us make sure we have the full picture, including the feedback from the Special Advisory Committee, which I'm very interested in hearing. So with that, I would say that at this point, I'm not ready to make a major decision because I feel like the information we have before us is incomplete. And I would like to see that information integrated as well as the Special Advisory Districts Committee's feedback before we move forward on any decision. Thank you.
And just to be clear, the Special Districts meeting is coming up on May 19th?
May 18th.
May 18th. Very good. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Geary. Commissioner Delaney.
Yes, hi. One of the things that, first of all, I want to thank Priscilla and your team. You did an excellent job. Wonderful, really concise. Very good. Thank you. Also, I want to thank the Water Authority for all the positive changes that they've made in such a short period of time. So thank you very much for that. One of the things that ex-chair, I should say, Whitburn mentioned was sales of water. And I think that goes under what you said in the report about other streams of income and things like that. So that's a really important thing. I I like the idea of 2 years. I think that that gives us time to revise the report, see changes and all that. But I would also suggest that they have a check-in of 1 year. Things are moving pretty fast these days. And I think 1 year would give us a clue, if you will, to the direction that they're going. It gives us time to, again, revise, think about things. So I would suggest, if I could vote, I certainly would vote for the 2 years with the 1 year check-in. Again, excellent, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Delaney. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Browning.
I also agree that we don't have a complete picture, and I don't think we can look at it just in our region. I don't know how many of you actually go out to Imperial Valley, but it's in my jurisdiction professionally. The farmers are often flooding their fields, wasting the water, because if they are to cut back on it, their allocation for the subsequent year will be cut back. Their main crop out there is alfalfa for cattle. It is not a good use of our water. If you look at the GDP that's generated out in Imperial Valley, it's very low, and it's not sustainable. And I went to a meeting in Denver in February, there was no snow on the mountains. It was terrifying. And if you look at Lake Mead and Lake Powell, like the Colorado River is not going to be our future. I love the idea of looking at regional potable reuse. I really think we should be focusing on our local control because I just think more and more the Colorado River is not going to be an option for us. I also think we should look at consolidating the retail agencies. Having 22 agencies selling the water, 22 CEOs, 22 bureaucracies creates unnecessary costs for ratepayers. And I am committed to affordability too, because our members can't afford to live here. It's very expensive. But I really think we should be talking about consolidating some of those agencies into, like, it doesn't make sense. Why am I in Sweetwater when the 805 barrier for OTI? Like, why isn't that one agency? I don't understand that. And I would like more information before we make any decisions about moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Browning. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Vice Chair Willis.
I want to bring a little bit of a different angle on this. I'm very concerned about, well, I just want to say that our charter talks about preserving agricultural land. And I talked to a lot of farmers out there, and I talked with different special districts, and I'm concerned that they're not, I believe that each special district, each farmer should be able to get those PSAR rates that have been available at a lower rate. We're to the point now where, as I talk to more and more farmers, that we're going to get to the point where we won't even be able to feed ourselves in San Diego County. I don't think we want to keep going down that route. Got to fix these PSAR rates for the rest of the farmers so that they're not dying out there. It's a matter, to me, it's a food security issue, and we've got to get that fixed. They're the ones, this whole discussion with the Water Authority, it hits the farmer the worst. And we've got to come up with some solutions on that, especially when it comes to the food security issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all those comments and take them all to heart. And thank you all for being here today. I see this as such a complex MSR, and again, appreciate all the work that went into that. I didn't necessarily enjoy spending my birthday weekend looking through hundreds and hundreds of pages, but the historical context that it provided, understanding the past decisions, the new leadership, and where the agency stands today was really important. But ultimately, I really am persuaded by the acknowledgement that CWA is an agency in transition. It's actively making progress on organizational, financial, and operational reforms, and we've seen those concrete examples today. There does also appear to be early discussions around governance structure, along with other potential improvements, and maybe there's other things that haven't been made public, but I'm sure in the works. So given that forward momentum and CWA's indication that In these reports, they said that meaningful change will require more than 2 years. So my recommendation would be revisiting at least in 3 years to give them more time. And I am not comfortable making any potential reorganization options today. I just don't think that's relevant. So it would be my recommendation that we don't put that type of thing in this report. So I don't know where that puts us.
So you sounded like you started with a motion, but I didn't know where.
It's a discussion only, so we're gonna have to
Okay,
figure.
but I was confused in your remarks of whether this should go out publicly.
I think there are the
And I'm
choices.
sorry,
yeah.
I spoke out of turn. I didn't mean.
No. I think it's really helpful for us to all, talk about this because there are two directions I think that we could go. We could put a complete pause on this, I guess, and not move it forward on recommendation or on the time clock, the 45-day thing, or we can revise this report, bring it back, and at that point, move it forward. So I think we got a little bit of conflicting commissioner reports, so I don't think we have clear direction yet. So let's.
I wanted to ask a point of clarification, McKean. Are we actually voting on the 6th and 7th recommendation for LAFCO? Because the other five recommendations are addressed to the Water Authority.
So thank you, Vice Chair Willis. So no actions being asked of the commission today. We are asking, however, for either a green light or red light with respect to what's next. As the chair mentioned, you have two paths. We could proceed with a formal public review period. Our policy says 45 days, but you can certainly change that, perhaps expand it out. And then we'd work on preparing a final for future commission consideration, at which time you would be asked to act on the recommendations in the report. The red light option is to hold off for staff to perhaps come back at your June meeting with some additional information, including what Commissioner Aguirre had asked, some input from the Special Districts Advisory Committee. We are also, just for context, meeting with the city's advisory committee, I think around the same time.
Not confirmed yet, but it's probably going to be late June.
Late June, well, maybe not. But at least one committee's report back. So those are the options. No action today, but we are seeking direction. Go or stay, essentially.
Yes, Commissioner McKenzie.
I think Commissioner Whitburn took in most of my comments along with Commissioner Gary. Just for technicalities, there are inaccuracies within this report. And as a commissioner, I would like to see the report come back with those inaccuracies and what they agreed on and what staff disagrees with all these comment letters before we send it out for the public. So at some point in time, I'd like to see this come back, maybe just in strike out, underline, so we can see where the changes have been made. But at this time, I agree with Commissioner Whitburn. I think we need to pause this and not send it out to the public.
Commissioner Whitburn.
And I appreciate that. There's also some elements of this report that I didn't get into because I didn't want to take up all the time here. But the discussion around the voting structure as it regards to the city of San Diego's internal process is very problematic. The MSR makes the case, for instance, that when 6 of the 10 members of the city 10 are the ones who, vote in favor of something, so you have 60% of them voting in favor of something, that is somehow problematic because those 6 are speaking for all 10 of the members of the city 10. Well, that's called democracy. We've got 5 members of the Board of Supervisors. Let's call them the County 5. If 3 members of the Board of Supervisors vote a certain way, then that 60% vote is speaking for the entire board of supervisors in essence. Again, that's the way the democratic process works. So it's beyond me what the problem would be with the city 10 having a democratic process for identifying the city's position on a water matter. So, and much less how that would impact the financial stability of the San Diego County Water Authority. So there are just elements of this MSR that are deeply problematic, and I'm not sure that just having it come back to us anytime soon is going to resolve that. This is a discussion item. It's not an informational only item. I think it could probably be something that we could take action on based on the fact that it's outdated, based on the fact that there are so many problems, there are inaccuracies and irrelevancies, and based on the fact that there is so much currently underway to sell water, which would bring in revenue, which would hold down rates and solve the problem that this is attempting to address. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we terminate the MSR and revisit the MSR and water authority matters in 3 to 5 years.
Second that.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Let me just clarify, will the sliding scale 3 to 5 be doable for our board, or do we need a concrete number?
So my mind is spinning a little bit here.
I'll adjust the motion to say 4 years. 4 years. Yep, that'll be my motion.
Spin away then.
Spinning away in real time. So one suggestion would be to bring this back for a formal action on Commissioner Whitburn's recommendation. Because this is part of the adopted work plan, this is the commission's call. I would suggest you could proceed with the request that's been seconded today, or come back and have this discussion at your next meeting, June 15th. And that way we could perhaps contemplate the unknown, because right now I don't know what terminating this MSR right now would do. I think we'd figure it out, right, if that's the commission's wish, but.
Commissioner Aguirre?
I'd be in favor of that just because it makes me a little bit uneasy to not know that there could be implications that we're not considering at this very point. It's no reflection on whether I support or not terminating it. But I think, again, the information is incomplete, and I think that just giving ourselves a little bit of wiggle room wouldn't hurt. So I'd be supportive of revisiting your proposed motion at the next meeting.
If that makes you more comfort, if that's more comfort to you, that's certainly. I will not be offended if you vote no on the motion. I am going to go ahead and stick with the motion for a couple of reasons. One is based on my careful review of this MSR. I don't know that it really provides value at the end of the day to advancing the water interests of the county. I don't know that we want to spend another whole meeting on this. And frankly, I'm not sure that it's salvageable. I mean, that's part of the issue here. If we were to come back and look at it again in a month or so, we could do that, but I still feel the same way. This is out of date. I mean, this goes through 2023. You look at some of the other things that are in here. I mean, one of the points that is made here is the concern about long-term fixed revenues, and the lack of fixed revenues is associated with fixed costs. Well, all of these contracts that the Water Authority is entering into with the districts in Riverside County and potentially with Arizona and Nevada, that's all fixed revenues. That is exactly addressing the problem that the that is identified in this MSR. So why would we get in the way of what this MSR of the resolution of what this MSR is talking about? I don't know. So I'll go ahead and stick with my motion, understanding there may be some interest in coming back and taking a look at it, but I'll stick with the motion, which would be to terminate the MSR and revisit this in 4 years. And I would also just say to the commission, we control the work plan. If for whatever reason we feel that things are not progressing in the direction we would want, we can always come back and take a look at and start a new MSR. But based on everything that we're seeing right now, I don't think it makes sense to move forward with this. So my motion is to terminate the MSR. And
Let me just stop you for 1 second. Does it matter, the word terminate versus pause? Would that help us with a,
Thank you. So, yes. So as I'm thinking about this, and I say yes because there's a second part to the MSR itself that we have not brought to you, and that is on the Metropolitan Water District, which right now has just started its 60-day administrative review that we were planning on bringing you in August. So perhaps a indefinite pause on the Water Authority portion would help allow us to then proceed as we have in bringing you the other component of this document, and perhaps hearing this feedback, and if it is the feedback of the full commission, we can then refrain from making recommendations in that draft document and present that more as an information document.
which one? The
Metropolitan Water District. So as I'm hearing it, and I'll ask Commissioner Whitburn if I'm off base, we would pause indefinitely any further work on this document. It would remain in draft form in our shelf, and in some point in 3 to 5 years, the commission would, as part of your annual work plan, would decide when and if to put it back on the list.
rather than use the word pause, because pause suggests that it'll be brought back up again, I would say let's stop work on the CWA MSR and bring forward the MET MSR as an informational item.
you have a second for that?
I did.
Commissioner Anderson.
I have a question. So we're gonna bring the Met stuff back. Look, by the way, I'm happy to second stopping it. I think there's too many flaws in it. I think that we're moving eventually. My first elected office was at Padre Dam Municipal Water District. I've spent more time on water than I care to admit to. And I saw a lot of things in the report that we would have never achieved without the County Water Authority. You know, when we were faced with unreliable water, while the Poseidon Adventure was the most expensive water, by far, it was 9% of the water to the total county, easing that pressure. We, over the last decade, spent $3 billion raising the reservoirs, putting tunneling in. Now we're achieving by creating electricity, by draining the reservoirs through generators and pumping at night and doing all sorts of very clever, innovative things. And because of that hard work that made us look so bad, today we're talking about selling out of state. If we go back and we take a snapshot of Met today, is that going to be effective or helpful in any way 4 years from now when we look at the county water? Because if you went back 4 years ago on county water, you came up with this MS, with the research that we have, which is really, and by the way, our staff did an incredible job. Your presentation was one of the best presentations I've ever heard on water. I didn't dropped my head once. But I'm just worried that we're spending money to spend money.
Should we put pause on the MWD then at this point? Can we just put pause on this? It's part two, so it was originally all together, so. Just trying to give you guys less work.
Well, no, I want to give them different work because we have other organizations that need that research. But I'm just thinking 4 years from now, it's a different world. That study would be helpful at that time. That's why I like, and even if it was 3 years, I think in 3 years, we're going to know a heck of a lot more in our relation. Right now, Met is going through similar changes, and wait until their water changes. And by the way, for most people, I learned so much about water over the years, but one of the things I can't help but share, 80% of the residential use of water is outdoors. It's not your toilet. So when we have a population increase, the additional flushes isn't going to offset what you spend on keeping a tree growing. Because it's, I think the rule of thumb is for every foot of tree, that's a gallon of water. So, all this stuff, they're going to go through and it's going to change. And when the County Water Authority came back and told us we couldn't have lawns anymore, I mean, that's when it really hit the fan in terms of lowering water usage. I would support, and if you would be willing to take the amendment of putting a stop to both, and then let's, in 3 years, look at whether it's appropriate at that time to move forward or 4 years or whatever, but I would like to have that pause.
Yeah, okay, I'm amenable to that.
Well,
I'm amenable to that. Do we want to do, we said 3 to 5. Are you good with 4 years?
yeah, before, but I'm saying if you wanted to come back in 3, we have the power to
We have the
change.
power to do that, yeah.
All right. Is that motion?
I have a question.
Chair, just a question on the procedural posture. You had one motion, you had an amendment proposed and seconded. Does the original
A friendly
motion,
amendment, just for the.
The
sake
original
of-
one
No.
is the original amendment withdrawn or does it remain on the floor?
It's okay, so I am incorporating the amendment into my motion. So the new motion is to stop work on both the CWA and the MWD MSR and consider a new MSR in 4 years.
Okay, so there's only one motion on the floor.
Okay.
And also, you said,
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, MWD, MET, same thing, yeah.
so you're going to stop.
We're going to stop both, yes.
We have a motion and a second on that. One more comment for Commissioner Drake?
Yes, Mother Nature will not listen to you. So all I can say is pay attention. Urgency is important.
And Commissioner McKenzie?
I just have a question. Is this now going to go back or not go back to the other advisory committees? Okay. Are you going to clean this up at this point in time, or
No.
is this document just going to stay as is?
Direction I'm hearing is not put one.
Okay.
Okay, so now we are ready for the vote. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
No.
Commissioner White, Commissioner Whitburn,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Browning, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Geary.
No.
So there are 5 in favor with 3 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone need a quick break or we want to plow through?
Move on.
Oh, you do? Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Okay. Turn the air up and why I'm so hot. Oop. It's Thank you.
She did all the work. Let's.
All right, we are back from our break. Item 6B is an annual workforce vacancy report per AB 2561. It's an action item, and we're going to hear from our executive officer.
Thank you, Chair. So just very quickly, this is somewhat a procedural item that applies to all public agencies, including LAFCO. Now, the intent here for most of our agencies with city, county, and some special districts where you have organized labor is to get a report from your units. We do not have that, so our report is rather quick. We can attest that you had all 8 budgeted positions filled this year. The report details that should the commission proceed with the staff recommendation, you will be budgeting a 9th position, and for reasons outlined in your agenda report, we don't anticipate any challenges with either the recruitment or retention. That said, this is formally a public hearing, so if you could just check in to see if we have any comments, and then should the commission see fit, formally accept the item before you. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any public comments online?
No public comments.
Very good. All right, do I have a motion to receive and file the report? Yes, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis? Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning? Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Aguirre is absent. So there are 7 in favor, 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item 6C is the proposed final work plan and budget for fiscal year 2027 plus related actions and another action item. Turn it over to Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Chair. So I will go ahead and take this presentation, and if someone might give me the clicker, just so I know what I'm referring to. Awesome. So the commission will recall back at your March meeting, we went ahead and presented a draft work plan and budget for the commission consideration for the upcoming fiscal year. Today is the final step in this 3-step process where we're bringing you back both the the work plan and the budget for formal adoption. And just because this is real time, we even have now a change that we're going to ask to be made to the work plan right off the top. But nevertheless, I want to just start with the theme of themes. So for the most part, everything that we presented back in March in terms of the work plan and budget is holding. And that includes this theme commission that we are bringing forward a status quo update with some targeted enhancements. And so that means you continue to see a work plan that has 30 projects listed in priority order. You continue to see an operating budget before you that requests an overall 3.3% increase compared to the current fiscal year, which for LAFCO Commission is about a $90,000 increase. And then because we are offering up what we see as a one-time true-up to our revenue structure, we're asking that the commission eliminate the recent practice of budgeting reserves as offsetting revenues. And that is why, as I'll highlight in a little more detail in just a bit, the apportionment that would go to our funding agencies, the County of San Diego, the City of San Diego, the other 17 cities, and then our independent special districts would go up both to account for that $90,000 increase that we're asking for in operating costs, but also to make up the $317,000 that you used in reserves for this fiscal year. So that's the theme of themes. On the screen, you can see what we've done since we last came to you in March in terms of outreach. Notice went into the paper. We checked in with our cities and special district advisory committee. And then through that process, we ultimately received 1 written comment from Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District. I'm highlighting that because in that letter, and it is attached to your agenda packet, there were about 4 items of either comment or concerns. One of those we did think merited a change that I'll go back or I'll detail in a bit, but essentially it doesn't change the numbers, Commission, but it does change how we categorize your debt service with respect to bond payments for your other post-employment benefit obligations. So now diving into the work plan. There are really 6 material changes that we've made in the packet. I will offer up, we will want to do a 7th today for this hearing. But the 6 new items that are in the packet before you that were not in your March version, 2 of them involve simply things that staff missed when we were developing this draft initially back in February. One is that we recognize we have 2 of our 3 special district seats are coming up for new elections, seats held by Commissioners Drake and Willis. Under statute, LAFCO, not the agencies, but LAFCO's on the hook for the election process. And then also, even though Commissioner Delaney's only been with us a year, Commissioner Delaney assumed a seat that was active back from Commissioner Mathis's appointment several years back. So that too requires a formal recruitment and perhaps appointment process by the dais. So we've added those 2 projects. We then added 2 other projects that we thought we'd be done with on June 30th, but they're going to bleed into next year. One is a homeless services white paper, and then another one is our regional municipal service review on Encinitas. So those are the 4 of the 6 items we've added to the work plan that you did not see in March. The 2 others actually come from the dais itself based on input that we received in March as well as at the last meeting. One is to schedule a policy review on policy L107. If you recall, there's some discussion on whether this current commission's expectations on what constitutes a consultation involving jurisdictional disputes is meeting the mark. So we've put that into the hopper. We've also added an interesting item, which is placement perhaps of a legislative proposal to add a 9th voting member to the commission. That would be mostly work for the commission to do, but nevertheless, it's now in the work plan. Now, to make room for those 6 additions, we've detailed the 6 projects that we want to move off back into bullpen. Most of those are kind of back office activities involving public outreach, for example, doing the rounds with our community planning groups. One substantive item that we did take off the to-do list, and that was based on comments from Commissioners White and Drake. No longer are we proposing a special governance study on the Escondido Rincon area. So those are the 6 items that we've added. For the chair's benefit, I do want to note that 2 other items we just simply moved down in the priority listing based on agency feedback. That is our MSRs on the Solana Beach, Del Mar region, as well as the Port of San Diego. In both cases, the affected agencies asked that we just lower the priority just to give them a little more wiggle room in turnaround time in our data request, given their own staffing turnover. So up on the screen is just a comparison of the top 10 list items from March 2nd to May 4th. Now here where we're going to do something in real time. So right now we had the wholesale water service provider MSR as our #1 priority, consistent with the current fiscal year. So my suggestion now that we have stopped work on that project is simply to move everything up. So whatever is number 11, and I don't have my actual hard packet before me, but I'll put Priscilla on the spot since you made eye contact.
The 11th priority is the special study on the Oceanside Small Craft
Okay,
Harbor
so
District.
that would be our recommendation, that everything simply move up, and that at the very end, we reintroduce Project 30 to be a formal outreach program with the county planning groups. So that would be the proposed change on the dais today. Eliminate the wholesale water service MSR, move everything up 1, which would mean the special study on the Oceanside Oceanside Small Craft Harbor District would move into your top 10 priority list. And at the very end, your 30th project then would become outreach to the county planning groups. And just for the benefit of context, Commission, what it means for a project to make your top 10, there is a difference between being number 11 and being number 10. And that is your policies provide a bucket of money in reserves for your staff to access and advance a top priority project as needed. We still come back and we report, hey, we've accessed some assigned monies, but you put aside essentially $100,000 just in case to advance a high priority project. So that would be the significance here. I see a question and I'd be happy to take through the chair, Vice Chair Willis.
You want to have him finish his presentation? He hasn't
I
finished
got at least 2 more minutes of gold material here, Barry. Give me a second. I need a win. All right. So on the proposed budget, everything remains the same. Where the overall amount is still $2.9 million. That hasn't changed. It's actually an 8.2% reduction, but that's just the grant funding widened down. The operating budget is the same. Today, the commission would be, in approving this, authorizing a 9th staff member. We've outlined how we would make up for most of that money. I do want to point out that when we get to the total apportionments, again, for the record, what we're asking the commission to do is authorize a $2,589,049 apportionment total. If you say yes to that, we hand that off to the county auditor. There was some discussion in the letter from the Wastewater Authority that staff does that calculation. That's not true. That goes right to the county auditor and they have a process. And then last but not least, just to, again, and unfortunately I don't see Kurt here, but I did want to point out and extend my appreciation to Kurt with Sweetwater, who identified a better practice of moving your debt service on other post-employment benefits from a non-operating to an operating cost. So Kurt, if you're listening, we did appreciate the comment. So the others is just about the reserves. Be happy to go into that, but I know Commissioner Willis is eager to make a motion.
Let's go to public comment. Let's go ahead and hear from Alicia Morrison.
Good morning, Chair, Commission, and staff. I concur with the April 6th and the April 10th public comments from Lower Sweetwater Fire Protection District. At the April 17th Advisory Committee meeting, the Advisory Committee passed to add a 9th voting member to be appointed by the Commission to be a public member. I think this is great and I support it, but it will need to align with LAFCO policy A109. With state law specifies the composition of the commission under Government Code 56325. Adding the 9th public member, I would like to see this elevated in the proposed final work plan for fiscal year or for year 27 from a low priority to a high priority. And for the seat to be filled by alternate General Public Commissioner Eileen Delaney, who resides in an unincorporated community. Adding the 9th voting public member would require a review and update of policy A109. Please add policy A109 to be reviewed and updated in addition to L107. Thank you for these considerations for desired changes in the proposal final work plan for year 27 listed in Exhibit A for the Commission to review. Thank you.
Thank you. Doyle Morrison.
Good morning, Commissioners. During the April meeting, item 7A presented to review policy L107, the discussion started with adhering to the policy procedures for early consultation and morphed into review and updating policy L107. So history review often delineates intent. So San Diego LAFCO on November 2nd of 2009, item 6, RO 826, Commissioner Jacobs suggested that the applicant and the city of Escondido work with the County Department of Planning and Land Use Chairman Horn said that item is to be continued, and Commissioner Jacob suggested that the commission approve executive officer recommendation number 1 to LAFCO staff to propose policy procedure to facilitate collaboration and consultation amongst local agencies in the county. And December 7th, 2009, item 6, proposed legislative policy L107, Commissioner Lewis asked about situations where local agencies are unable to resolve conflicts in response to the question. Michael Ott said that the applicant would be responsible for demonstrating that good faith effort was made to meet, confer, resolve jurisdictional issues. Mr. Ott explained of the policy L107 that if an agreement cannot be reached, then the application may be deemed incomplete. Early consultation takes place before the completed application. Diane's supervisor, Jacob, explained the need for policy and why she requested commission to authorize executive order to draft policy executive officer to draft policy 107. Supervisor Jacob said that the direction originated from problems that have occurred when applicants have not worked with the county and city officials to reach an agreement on jurisdictional issues. She suggested that there be a written LAFCO policy to inform applicants of what is expected and the process to reach an agreement between the county and affected special districts and cities. Supervisor Jacob indicated that a written policy would be considered a protection for local agencies and property owners. On May 3rd, 2010, proposed legislation 109, item 9, Mr. Ott said that the policy came about when LAFCO considered several controversial annexation proposals and issues related to service financial impacts and land use. He indicated that the commission directed LAFCO staff to develop a policy that would address these types of issues. Robert Berry provided a brief report to the commission. He said the purpose of the policy is to address identified jurisdictional issues and concerns. He indicated that the proposed consultation process will identify jurisdictional concerns related to different development standards, existing and or planned land use and zoning, community character, and planned provisions of governmental change. The past commissioner's intent was to avoid inefficiencies by mandating early consultation. The earlier you can vet out issues, the faster and cheaper the solution for the applicant and LAFCO staff.
Thank you, Doyle. Can you wrap it up?
In closing, the executive officer tells you all the time, these are your policies. I'm asking you to research the intent of policy L107 as it was formed, and if you agree with it, enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody online wishing to comment?
No speakers online.
Okay, very good. Yes, Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes, I have a proposal since we are rearranging the work plan here, and we ended up deleting number 1, is that we have a white paper for the city of San Diego on their reservoirs, and that's item number 9, but we don't have the MSR for the city. They're down here in the bullpen, and I didn't line it out. I think one way or the other that those two should be married up, because if you wait 4 to 5 years to do the MSR for the city, that report that a lot of work has gone into is going to be stale. They're going to have to go back and redo that information. So whether it goes up, down, I think the two should be going to get together. And if this white paper, is half or 3/4 completed, then I think the city needs to start their MSR. So I would like the commission to consider that, and especially considering that everything that's going on with the city, they've got their pure water, they've got other issues, and I think the city of San Diego needs to be moved up out of the bullpen.
Agreed.
Okay, quick. Anybody else have any comments? What number would that be moved up to?
Oh, pick a number. They're number 9. Number 9. That's the number that
You're proposing that they be combined together. Is that possible, staff, to put two MSRs together?
So number 9 right now is a white paper focusing in on service and governance opportunities involving the water-based public resources, the city reservoirs. So I would suggest holding that separate because it's a different focus. But to Commissioner McKenzie's suggestion, you certainly can move up the MSR that is currently listed as a bullpen item, i.e. we're telegraphing that this is on our plate, but we did not put it in the work plan itself. To where the commission would want to place it is up to you, if at all.
Could place it as number 10 right after that, because I think you're going to be including some of this information that is in the white paper. I would assume, since it's governance and you're looking at the reservoirs, that's going to be a portion of a chapter in the city's MSR, is it? And if it isn't, then, we'll leave it as is. But if it's going to be included in any way, then I think, that information, I think they should be there going forward at basically at the same time, or completing your white paper, and then still working on, the MSR for the city, and they can pull the information out of that without having to regenerate it.
And
I'm just looking at,
Commissioner McKenzie was good enough to flag this as a topic, and I've thought about it, and certainly up to the commission, you'd like to move that rather heavy lift MSR on the city of San Diego
well, you
up.
don't have Metropolitan, you don't have,
Yeah.
you don't have the water authority.
That is true.
I mean,
Now, the one thing I mentioned to Commissioner McKenzie that I'll mention to the commission is we are already going to be working quite a bit with City of San Diego on the La Jolla project. So my one thought is they may get LAFCO overload.
Yeah, I agree.
Although who doesn't like to hear from LAFCO? So there's that.
I do kind of feel like it's a big deal to go from the bullpen all the way to
an ongoing
the top 10.
event for, it's not going to be done next month. It's going to be an ongoing for a year or two. So we're not doing any basic MSRs for 2 years because of the lift that LAFCO has to do for the city of La Jolla.
Commissioner Anderson?
I just have a simple question. Does staff know if that information the commissioner is speaking of would be included in the future report? Because if you even said it, if it's not, this is moot, but if,
some of it probably would be.
well, then that would change it.
Yes. So certainly the baseline information that we're collecting on the city's parks and recs, although targeted towards these reservoirs, would be included in an MSR.
In 3 and 4 years, that information would, in my opinion, would be rather stale, kind of almost like the
On a park?
CFA.
I'm not sure that you could have a park be stale. I mean, if that's what they're looking at.
I'm not sure. We didn't get an outline as to what was going to be in the white paper.
Anybody else have a comment? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the support on the 9th member. I think it was very, very kind of them. And of course, you know that I support a 9th member, hopefully from the unincorporated areas. But I'm just going to put this out here also. In the interim, I've enjoyed my short term that I've been on here, and I hope that I understand that you can appoint from the dais. So if that comes to that, I'd appreciate and would love to serve another term.
Good,
Thank
you. All right. Anybody else have any comments?
Just for clarification on the director's comment, we still have to go out and advertise and take applications and all this other stuff, no matter.
So my memory, and I'll ask Priscilla to help distinguish this, is when we did the public member appointment policy update, there was a one-time opportunity that the commission could proceed with a expedited reappointment of the incumbent on a one-time only basis if you chose to, but that's a decision the full commission would make.
All right, so
Good, we can tackle that later.
So we don't have a motion yet, but as far as I'm concerned, I am very concerned about moving up the city of San Diego from the bullpen all the way to position in the top 10. Maybe if staff feels they want to put it in the medium category, that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. It seems to me that if San Diego hasn't got that on their radar, it's kind of a big lift for a city manager or the mayor, whoever has to respond to all these things. It's just kind of a lot. So I think being more prepared, it's going to work out a little bit smoother for our staff. That's how I feel. But anybody else want to make a motion or? Right?
Well,
So,
you're deleting or moving down, 3 of these items that are in the high medium. What about putting City of San Diego up right after number 11? Because you're moving 11 down, 11A, 11B, and 14, you're moving those down. I just want to see it coming forward sooner rather than 4 years from now.
all right. Are you making a motion?
Yes, that was it.
You have a second. The MSR of San Diego at position 11. Whitburn?
I'll speak in opposition to that. I think that what we have on our plate is really substantial with the healthcare districts, with Sandag, and everything else that we've got in the 10 that are currently at the top. If we want to move City of San Diego up to some degree, I think that's fine. But to your point, Chair, I think this would, I would not be involved one way or the other in an MSR on the City of San Diego, but I would imagine that this would come as quite a bit of surprise, to your point, to the City of San Diego, since this hasn't been previously on the radar screen. And to Mr. Simon's point, I think that, when you consider the conversations that are going to be ongoing around La Jolla and everything else, I think that there was a reason why staff proposed having the City of San Diego on the radar screen, but in the bullpen, if we want to take it out of the bullpen and put it as a low priority or something like that so that it's in the queue, I think that would be perfectly reasonable, but I don't know that I'd suddenly move it from the bullpen to a high priority.
No, mid priority, high mid.
Commissioner McKenzie?
As I understand it, Keen, this is your wish list, and you'll get it done as you can get it done. And, you're not held to the fact that, okay, this number, we're going to have that done in 6 months. There's no timeline on this. And I'm sure that, maybe your number, I'll pick a number here, your number 6A may get done before Sandag gets done. So, it's putting it up there, it's putting it on their radar that, oh, this is something we really need to start, planning on. In the bullpen, I don't think they really get to that level of, oh, this is number 16. We need to start thinking about that. They start thinking about and organizing and prioritizing, and their staff. What staff can handle this particular item? There's some staff that maybe cannot. If we put in a number 9, that number 9, I don't think, unless they have prior knowledge, is going to be able to handle the Sandag MSR. So, let's put it where it's more on their radar than a second thought.
All right.
We have a motion. We have a motion.
I would just also add that we want these MSRs to be successful, and we see all this work that goes into it and what happened today, that I just want, I know that City of San Diego has a lot on their plate right now. And so I just want to say that I'm just not comfortable moving it up that far. And just, so I just want to say that for record. We have a motion, we have a second, and we can call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker?
No.
Commissioner Willis?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn?
No.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning? Commissioner Anderson? So there are 4 in favor with 3 opposed and 1 absent. Does that mean the motion passes?
Good. All right. Was that a motion to do the final work plan and budget, or do we need a separate motion for?
I took it as for everything.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. All right.
And just for the benefit of the public, so the motion that just was passed, the budget is what is presented, was approved, and then the work plan strikes the wholesale water service provider study, moves everything up until the Alliance of LAFCOs. That stays at number 12 as a medium priority, and we have added as number 11 as a medium priority the start of the City of San Diego MSR.
Yes. Commissioner Whitburn.
Yes, Supervisor Aguirre was absent for the vote. Does she have an alternate who is here?
No, so that would be Montgomery Step.
All right. Given that neither she nor her alternate are here, I think it's important that she have an opportunity to weigh in. So I would request another vote on this. This vote stands, but I request that we revisit this topic at next month's meeting.
And that would be just for the work plan.
Just for the work plan.
Thank you, sir.
Great. All right, let's turn to our business calendar, item 7A. This is an out of service agreement request, Buena Sanitation to 3144 Roadrunner. It's an action item, and we've got Michaela Peters to present.
Yes, thank you, Chair Becker, and good morning, Commissioners. Michaela Peters, Analyst 2 for the record. So today's item, actually, I need the clicker, just one moment.
I have it. Indeed.
Okay, so today's item is a request by the Buena Sanitation District for authorization to provide extended out-of-agency wastewater service to a property located at 3144 Roadrunner Road within the city of San Marcos. So the affected territory is about a half-acre parcel currently developed with a single-family residence built in 2016. So this request has 2 components. First, it seeks to formalize and redirect the existing out-of-agency wastewater service arrangement currently authorized under a 1989 agreement between Buena Sanitation District and the City of San Marcos into a direct service relationship between Buena Sanitation and the property owner. Second, it requests authorization to extend that service to accommodate a planned accessory dwelling unit. The timing of this request is driven by the landowner's need for a will serve letter from Buena Sanitation District as part of the City of San Marcos's ADU permitting process. So before turning to the specifics, and on the screen, a brief overview of the applicable framework. So state law requires cities and special districts to obtain LAFCO approval before providing services outside their jurisdictional boundaries, with limited exceptions. Under San Diego LAFCO policy, the executive officer may administratively approve out-of-agency service requests only when there is a direct threat to public health and safety. All other requests, including this one, require commission approval. So the subject parcel is located approximately 1,200 feet from Buena Sanitation District's jurisdictional boundary at its nearest point, and the City of San Marcos designates the site with an estate zoning classification, which requires a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet and allows a maximum density of 2 units per acre. So the proposed accessory dwelling unit would comply with these standards and would bring the parcel to its maximum allowable density. So turning to the analysis, the first consideration is whether the service extension is warranted and whether out-of-agency service is appropriate. In terms of need, Buena Sanitation District has already been providing wastewater service to the property or to the single-family residence since the home was constructed in 2016. The existing residence generates an estimated 196 gallons per day, And with the addition of the accessory dwelling unit, total demand is projected to increase approximately 333 gallons per day. And this represents about 0.03% of the district's available system capacity, which is a negligible increase that can be accommodated without adverse impact. The next question is whether annexation would be more appropriate than an out-of-agency service agreement. While annexation is generally preferred under LAFCO law, local conditions make it impractical in this case. Buena Sanitation District operates under a transitional or zero sphere of influence established by LAFCO in 1984. And this zero sphere reflects the long-term expectation that the district's service responsibilities will eventually be assumed by the city of Vista. However, the subject property is located within the city of San Marcos, so not Vista. So a jurisdictional adjustment between the two cities at this time is unlikely, and as a result requiring annexation would not be feasible at this time. So staff therefore concludes that an out-of-agency service agreement is the most practical and orderly approach to meet the immediate need while remaining consistent with long-term planning objectives. So with respect to conditions, staff recommends limiting service to 2 residential units, the existing single-family residence and planned accessory dwelling unit, and standard conditions of approval would also apply, including payment of any applicable fees in accordance with the LAFCO fee schedule. In addition, staff recommends that the commission not require the landowner to file a future annexation proposal. So given the transitional sphere designation and cross-jurisdictional constraints, such a condition would not be workable and would not reflect current realities. As for the environmental review, staff recommends that the commission find the request is a project under CEQA, but exempt from further review under state CEQA guidelines, section 15319B. This exemption applies because the project involves the development of no more than 4 dwelling units on the affected property. So in conclusion, staff recommends alternative 1, that the commission conditionally approve Buena Sanitation District's request to provide out-of-agency wastewater service to 3144 Roadrunner Road for the existing residence and 1 accessory dwelling unit, subject to the conditions outlined in the report, and adopt the associated CEQA finding. 2 additional alternatives are on the screen, including continuing the item to a future meeting or disapproving the request. So that concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you for that presentation. I don't see any public comments online, so I'll go ahead and move approval of staff recommendation. Very good. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Commissioner Browning? Commissioner Anderson? So there are 7 in favor with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 8 is our executive officer report.
Just very quickly, so the chair did cancel our regular meeting for June 1st. We've rescheduled it for June 15th. It will be in this room. We have 2 main items that we're going to be presenting to you, the Carlsbad final subregion MSR, as well as later our better late than never, our audit for fiscal year 24. And then we will bring back per the commission a review of today's work plan for reconsideration.
Good.
Or revisiting, excuse me.
And I realize we need to go back to consent item G. Did you have a comment on that, Vice Chair Willis?
I just wanted to give.
So I'm going to ask Priscilla to tap into her memory and the Special District Advisory Committee meeting. Key thoughts.
Yes, thank you. So we held the Special Districts Advisory Committee meeting April 17th. We took 2 main items and presentations. One was the draft work plan and budget, or the proposed final work plan and budget, excuse me, and then also the draft report on Carlsbad. On the work plan and budget, the main comments were we had illuminated that, the commission may consider adding a 9th member. And so they were generally supportive of that, but wanted to communicate that they had a preference for that 9th member to be a public member. And then they also and I am tapping into the meeting minutes to help with the memory. They did also comment on the 9th staff member. So just noting that just a concern with, okay, if the commission is asking that staff sort of limit consultant usage and then instead tap into adding a 9th staff member, are we losing expertise by bringing in a 9th member that at that point would perhaps be a junior, since it would be an analyst 1 versus a consultant that brings a little more expertise. So, but they were supportive of adding a 9th member. Oh, and on Carlsbad, you're welcome. On Carlsbad, there was really just general discussion and nothing of real note.
Approval of item G?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Second, call for the vote.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis, Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitburn,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Browning, Commissioner Anderson. So 7 in favor with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Good. And we will adjourn this meeting and see you June